How's the Josh? Not really. How's the Josh? Amazing.
Alright, how are you guys? How is the committee committing?
We're super excited.
Anyways, so we're gonna talk a little bit about how, like, you know, it's India's chance to make Web3 happen. It's been a few months ago when I talked to Greg once that how passionate about I am to making Web3 happen to the world and India happen to Web3. So this was my goal and motto in, like, you know, making this a thing. And that's when I started, like, talking about what are the opportunities, what is it different, how is it different from the internet goal that started in 2000s in San Francisco maybe. And there were a few key pointers that came in which made me realize that this might be a chance where, like, you know, Indian ecosystem and in general, talent can grow and not just certain geographies, maybe SF in the US. Sorry, Greg, you're from there. Nothing against them, but they don't give us visas. So, anyway, so basically the point was that, you know, initially, if you wanted to raise funds, you had to be physically present in the US. And most of the mindset and the setups of VCs was based out of, okay, if it worked in the US, it will work in India. So it was mostly innovation and those kind of things were happening in the US because most of the VCs and the money was in the US. And there were, like, you know, people who just wanted to fund India with a very small amount, which was a clone of what happened in the US, right? And that was totally, as per me, the norms of the games. But as COVID happened to the world, which was a really bad thing, VC started funding on Zoom calls, right? And that had to be not geography specific. That led to a new wave of innovation that started coming along, in which people started building from different geographies around the world, right? If you had to raise funds, you had to be in Bangalore in India. If you had to raise a global company, you had to be in the SF. But now, people were working remotely to make, like, you know, on Zoom calls, raising funds, and remotely working across so that they can build products eventually that scale and was not geography oriented. And that's when, like, you know, Web3 really prolifered in the third wave. And I think as of now, we are clearly situated to making something around that happen. And the reason behind that is we have a head start. In Internet 2.0, we didn't have examples. I think in Web3, we have so many awesome examples where India and Indian ecosystem and the people from India have not just worked in Web3 companies which have, like, you know, led the forces, but also have been founders of companies which have done that. And that's where, like, you know, the difference comes in. We have such awesome examples that were a part of the previous wave, 2018, we have WazirX. We have, like, you know, one more, am I allowed to take the name of Polygon? Polygon. We have had Polygon, we have had other chains, and I think that's where the difference comes in.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Web3. That's the beauty of Web3. So, guys, a little bit of an attention here. What do you think is the valuation of Web3 is going to be by 2030? Anyone? Yeah. How much?
10 trillion.
10 trillion by 2030? Yeah, you are giving me a hopium, by the way. So, right. So, as per the industry experts, it is expected that Web3 will be close to 83 billion US dollar by 2030. And just to give you a perspective for India, India already has, as per the NASSCOM report, India has 450 Web3 startups. And when it comes to the talent, India's contribution to the total Web3 talent globally is 11%. India's share is 11%. Right. So you can well imagine that the whole potential of Web3, for India specifically is huge, amazing. And now these 450 startups that are already there on in Web3 employ close to 80,000 professionals. And these are the numbers when we do not have a clear regulation, by the way. We do not have a clear guidelines. When you go to a bank and you say that I want to start a Web3 company, they will not give you loan. They will not give you a support. So this is all happening when there is no help, nobody is going to acknowledge you. So that is the kind of potential Web3 has for India. Now this ecosystem is growing. at an exponential space. If I have to ask you, how many builders are here? How many people are building? So see the number. The number is visible here. The number speaks for itself. So how many people started as an investor? First investor and then they thought of building something, right? So everybody had this, started their journey as an investor and now they are building something. So I think Web3 has an amazing potential. If I have to just give you a number, that in Web2, how many applications are there in total on Google and Apple? Any number? Anybody? How many applications are there on Android and Apple in total? Anyone? So there are close to 6 million applications. Right now, if we club Google and if we club Android and iOS, out of 6 million applications, how many applications have been built by India or by Indians? It is not even 1%. Can you imagine? So do we really want to repeat that same mistake? Indians have not made more than 1% of total applications in Web2. So do we want to repeat the same mistake? No. Web3 is going to be a different ball game. India has already proved by Polygon and many other that India will lead the Web3 space provided we get the right support, we get the right acknowledgement, we get the right regulations around it. So I think India has a huge potential and all these people who are sitting here, Web3 gives you that platform. It doesn't discriminate you. You cannot say that this guy has got an entry barrier, or like in Web2 there were, Silicon Valley was the one where everything was happening in the Silicon Valley. So if you want to build something, you need to go to Silicon Valley. No. Now if you're sitting in Indore, if you're sitting in Gorakhpur, if you're sitting in some Banaras, or you're sitting in Delhi, you are part of that ecosystem. You don't have to go to Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is in your drawing room, study room, bedroom, wherever. You just need a PC and bang you are. You just need to have an idea. So that's the beauty of Web3. And India being the youngest country in the world at present, our median age is 29 years. We are not even 30 years old. And till 2050, we are going to remain 29. So that is the potential that we have as an Indian. And I'm 100% sure that this ecosystem in India is really going to grow. What's your take in that?
I personally feel like, the stats are great, but we actually need to look at these in a more theoretical sense, right? Why did Web2 grow more in the US? Why did Indians work in these organizations which are based out of US? And the simple answer was that, if you cannot see somebody of your age becoming a founder, of your race becoming a founder, you just imagine of working in that particular organization, right? If you just go to this Bangalore, I forgot that place, but you will find people boasting that we work at Microsoft. They boast that we work at Google. Nobody boasts that they work at something like Infosys and TCS. And definitely there are pay gaps that are related to that, but in general, America is a walled garden of branding things in a way, and we call it the American way, right? If you find that's the sad reality that we are living in today. What changes with Web3, or what we might think of it will change in Web3, is that it has been created by developers. It is not being created by financial people. You are a biggest fan of a guy known as Satoshi Nakamoto, right? And
thank you very much for acknowledging that.
And by the way,
you are a fan of Vitalik, so
right. But anyways, so that person was a developer, not a financial banker who created it, right? And developers don't have a race or a caste; they just commit to GitHub, and that's the difference, right? If you see, I don't see any Web2 organization in which Indians are hiring from America, Indians are hiring from Western Europe. But if you go to organizations like Shardeum, which are definitely global, but have a good India base, are hiring from America. We have that. You got hired. We also have organizations like Push Notification, which are hiring from the US. and so on and so forth. So I think it's about white supremacy, which is definitely not ending, but definitely is on a way, where we can find Indians not just being good developers and coders, but we can also scale things, because it's not about geography, but rather about core commitments and development ecosystem. And I think when it comes to ecosystem, India is the biggest, because I just talked to Karthik from ETH Global, and he told me that India, what we are doing right now, the ETH Global event, is the biggest offline hackathon that has ever happened in Web3. So if you want to do something of scale, they need to do it in India. And I think there are a few ecosystems that have understood that very well, and I think it's gonna get replicated. If you see in India, we found so many good ecosystems coming around because they know without India, they cannot scale. They will not be, if they don't have an ecosystem in India, they cannot develop. And that's why there are ecosystem heads of India that actually exist. For example, there's a DYDX India person, right? So I think right now India in itself in geopolitics has made its space, but in the developer ecosystem, which predominantly is led by Web3, I think they have a huge scope, although we have done a good start.
So what do you think, I mean, for India to really gain a momentum or to grow from here, and what is really required in Web3, where we are lacking at present?
I think, like I've told that even to Nishchal when I had a call with him, and I think people think that Indians are innovating in Web3, but I would say most of them are still forking in Web3. What that means is that, okay, this is a chain which has a very good, let's say Uniswap kind of a thing, AMM deployed. Let me just fork it and deploy my own, Indian version of the same. So forking is not innovation, although if you fork that and make your own features out of it, that's great. So maybe if we try to have a mindset in which we are trying to explore the infinite, that's when I would say that this is an India specific product which can scale. And I would say I'm very proud of what Shardeum is doing with auto scaling in general, which in itself is an innovation in which you will be able to scale things without people deploying their own shards. So in general, also about this multi-chain ecosystem, I would want to say, definitely there is no one chain that's going to be very, that's going to lead the forces. People think Ethereum because that's branded very well. Most of the Ethereum developers, despite being an Ethereum fan, are Americans. Out of 100 people who are on core dev calls, I would say 90 of them are Americans, and that's where the Ethereum ecosystem loses, and the OFAC thing that you always keep on building, right? So if you want to build a truly global chain, you need to include every race, right? You need to include every person, and that's when you really build for growth. And I hope Shardeum does that, although they have done a great start in India.
So awesome. So my next question is that what do you think that as a developer, if somebody wants to start their journey in Web3, because there are many people out here who are here as an investor and who have not just yet figured out that what to do, how to start a journey or find a career in Web3. What is your take? What you will recommend to them that how to start their journey in the Web3 space?
Alright, the first one would be, don't look at prices. Delete CoinGecko, delete CoinMarketCap. I did not trade in crypto until 2000, I'm not going to tell you, but very late, right? The reason behind that was I started off in ETH India 1.0 and I got hired, and I took Web3 in general, not a token minting, money minting space, but rather a thing that can bring inclusion to the world. And that's where the difference comes in. So if you want to be a developer, don't look at prices. If you want to be a developer, look at the ethos which lead to Web3 being happening. And I feel stick to the basics. Always stick to the basics. Bitcoin is the creation of things, and if somebody shits on Bitcoin or being a closed community, just stay away from those things. Sticking to the basics and building for the future would be the way you can get started. And I would say if you have blockchain fundamentals getting cleared, then go ahead. Otherwise, I see people deploying code of Yarn and then saying we are the founder of EBCXYZ. That won't work if you don't understand what blockchain is. So understand the basics. Do realize that you are in this to make Web3 a scalable developer ecosystem rather than making Web3 a token incentive game. So that would be my take.
Well, so if I have to, give my suggestion, you can take it as a suggestion. You know what is happening these days is that when people are entering into Web3, they start their learning from, say, Solana or Cardano or they want to learn from a particular chain and they just want to remain there and they don't want to learn anything else other than what they're doing. I think that is the wrong approach. Web3 is actually not a technology. Absolutely. I mean, Web3 is not at all a technology. Web3 is a philosophy. It's a way of how, as an individual, as a humans, we want to have a safe internet where my personal data is not compromised. Where I'm confident that my future generation will have a good time surfing the internet. Right? It's more of a philosophy. Now, from where this philosophy started? So, from the genesis of going back to cypherpunks and then Bitcoin and then maybe coming on to Ethereum's and then maybe the application that you are building, you need to go and start from the scratch before you actually want to, and this goes to developers also and this goes to everybody who's actually working in this ecosystem. My suggestion is that they need to open up and understand the philosophy from the scratch and not just from the perspective of what they are building, right? So this is one piece of advice that I'll give and probably that helps everybody. And I'm sure that our program Web3 Ki Duniya is really on a mission of helping you guys. So by the way, how many people watch Web3 Ki Duniya? Right, so
It's in Hindi. Why you lying?
So
I watch it, but I don't understand it.
Okay.
Watch
So
it.
so the program is generally it's in Hindi, so most of the time. So really looking forward that we get somebody and then maybe do it in English.
Last, so I think we are at time, but what would be your 1 minute pitch to the globe? Why do you think India will be one of the committers to Web3?
So I personally believe that we as Indians have great mind and great attitude toward life. I think we are hustlers. We just don't get bogged down by situations. We kind of if you see from a schooling, we are put into a class where there are already 60 students, right? And then we take a school bus that takes 1 hour to reach home. And the moment I reach home, there is a tuition. Then I need to go and play. So my life is a hustle since childhood. And each one of us in India, we are a hustler. We know there is no shortcut to success. And that attitude of hustle helps us to figure out ways. And I think in Web3, the most important part for success is how hard you can hustle in those early days, right? I know you personally, you work for, I think Pranav sleeps for not more than 5 hours. I have seen him online at 2 a.m., 1 a.m. and I ask him that Pranav, take care of your health, and he says, Kashif bhai, thoda hustle hai. There is a little bit of hustle right now. Maybe there will be a time when I'll probably have a good sleep. So this attitude, is definitely required, and I'm sure in India, this attitude is I know everybody has it. So this makes me believe that India will definitely be on top. And just look at the number. When there is no support, there is no ecosystem to support, there is no guideline, and you have 450 startup and we already have so many success stories from India already. So I'm very bullish on it. And just see the number in India right now. You go to all the side events. Have you ever seen a hall which is empty? I haven't seen yet. So this speaks volume about it, and this makes me confident that we are really we are going to have a good time in future.
I think in general blockchains are mathematics and Indians are really great at mathematics. If you are able to brand something and make it big, it would go down. There have been examples can I take those names also?
Say whatever you want.
Okay, no censorship in blockchain, huh? Okay, alright. So there have been examples like FTX which have been branded like the best, but because they were not fundamentally driven, which is mathematics in general. They were not
So,
able to.
so FTX was not Web3.
Right.
Yeah.
So in general, like Indians are good in maths. Indians are good in hustle. In general, India as a country is able to survive because it's a community where each of us are able to relate, and that's my bull case for Web3 for India.
Really looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you go, thank you so much. And we heard that you are a fan of Satoshi Nakamoto and you're a Karnam. But like, if you can just say maybe one quote that you live by of Satoshi, one quote, one line, or one philosophy.
Not your keys, not your crypto.
Any that you have.
Satoshi is hope.
Thank you.